Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sania's English podcast.
Today we are going to learn about one of the greatest women in Islamic history, Maryam, the mother of Prophet Isa, peace be upon him. Her life is a story of faith, purity, patience, and complete trust in Allah.
Right. And, when you really stop and just, imagine her life, it's almost hard to wrap your head around.
It really is.
I mean, imagine being the most pure, the most devoted person in your entire society. You've given up every worldly pleasure.
Yeah, literally every waking second spent in quiet worship.
Exactly. And then, one day, you find yourself completely alone in the desert, in just agonizing physical pain.
Oh, yeah.
Hiding from this angry community that is ready to surround you and scream that you're an absolute disgrace.
It's terrifying.
It is. But that is exactly where Maryam found herself.
Yeah.
We're looking at a life that honestly completely redefines what it means to be strong.
Absolutely. Because, when we talk about historical figures, especially spiritual ones, we tend to put them on a pedestal.
Right, like they're untouchable.
Exactly. We treat their stories as if they never felt pain or fear. But her journey is just saturated in this really raw, overwhelming human emotion.
Yeah, it's so real.
It's a story about feeling entirely cornered by the world, feeling physically broken, but refusing to let go of the creator. And I really want you, the listener, to just keep that humanity in mind as we dive into this.
I love that. And to really grasp the weight of her choices, we kind of have to understand the world she was born into.
Oh, for sure. You have to set the scene.
Right, so let's step back and look at the streets of ancient Jerusalem. This was a place where religion was just, it was everything.
It dictated daily life.
Completely. The sacred Masjid, Beit al-Maqdis, was the absolute center of culture and social standing. And standing right at the top of that social structure was her family.
Yeah, they were known as the House of Imran.
Right.
And Maryam descends from this deeply noble, pure lineage. It traces all the way back to Prophet Dawood, or David, peace be upon him.
Wow, so real nobility.
Truly. Her father, Imran, was a massive pillar of the community. He was the guy people sought out when they needed the absolute truth.
The ultimate trusted figure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He had deep knowledge, unwavering honesty, and her mother, Hannah, matched him in every single way.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, she was a woman whose whole internal world just revolved around her connection to Allah.
And this is where the story gets so emotional for me. There's this heavy shadow hanging over their home.
There is.
If you walk past their house in Jerusalem, it's peaceful, it's calm, but it's silent. They've been married for years and they're completely childless.
Which back then was a huge deal.
Huge. In that ancient culture, not having a child wasn't just, a personal sadness. It carried this immense social weight. People would whisper.
It was a crushing burden, honestly. For Hannah, it was this quiet, enduring grief. She just longed for the simple joy of hearing a child laugh in her house.
Right, that basic human desire.
Yeah, and every time she stood in prayer, that deep maternal longing there. She carried it with a lot of grace, but, it was a heavy, heavy weight in her heart.
And there's this one specific moment that we see in the history that completely changes everything for her.
Oh, the bird scene.
Yes. So Hannah is resting in the courtyard of the sacred Masjid. She's just sitting under the shade of a tree, and she looks up into the branches, and she sees a bird.
Just a simple bird.
Just a small mother bird, gently feeding a tiny baby chick.
It's an incredibly moving visual. It's such a small, everyday thing.
Right. You or I would just walk right past it.
But for a woman who has spent years with an empty womb, seeing that pure, simple act of maternal love, it shatters her completely.
It just breaks down all the walls.
Exactly. It brings all of that hidden grief and longing right up to the surface. It's the catechist for literally everything that follows.
Because right then and there, she makes this huge vow. She turns to Allah in this state of just overwhelming desire. And she promises that if she is finally blessed with a child, she'll give the child away.
It's wild to think about.
She says she will dedicate the child entirely to the service of the sacred Masjid.
Right. Her exact words are like, "My Lord, I dedicate what is in my womb entirely to your service."
And I have to be honest, I struggle to understand this. I really do.
How so?
Well, we're talking about a woman who has prayed for a baby for years. To finally feel that life growing inside you and to immediately say, I am giving this child to the temple. That requires a level of, emotional detachment that I can hardly fathom.
I get why you'd say that.
How does a mother just give her long-awaited child away like that?
Well, see, it looks like detachment to us. But for Hannah, it was actually the ultimate form of attachment.
Attachment to God, you mean?
Exactly. You have to look at the psychology of her devotion. She recognized that this child wasn't a piece of property that she owned.
Ah.
If Allah was going to perform this miracle for her in her old age, she wanted to return the greatest gift she possibly could. She wasn't abandoning her child at all.
She was elevating the child.
Precisely. She was placing her child in the safest, most sacred environment possible.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But we also have to consider what that meant practically in that society, because giving a child to the temple back then was like a very specific career path.
Oh, yeah. It was a very defined role.
It meant the child would live in the sanctuary, clean it, study the scriptures constantly, and serve the worshipers. But there's a massive catch here.
A huge catch.
That role was strictly 100% reserved for males.
Entirely for men and boys. So Hannah naturally just assumes that because she made this vow, Allah is going to grant her a son to fulfill the role.
Because that's how society worked.
Exactly. The whole society operated on that assumption. But the pure intention behind her prayer is what really matters here.
Right.
She didn't ask for a son so he could, take care of her in her old age or carry on the family name. She asked for a child so that child could serve Allah.
So the prayer is answered. The impossible happens. Hannah becomes pregnant. And you can just imagine the joy, the preparation.
The absolute certainty in her mind that she's carrying a boy.
Right. A boy who is going to be a great servant of the temple. The day of the birth arrives, and she has a baby girl.
Yeah. She looks down at this newborn infant, and it is a female.
Wow.
She names her Maryam, which beautifully translates to servant of God.
That's a beautiful name.
It really is.
Yeah.
But you can imagine the sudden rush of confusion she must have felt.
Total panic, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, she made a very public vow to dedicate this child to the sanctuary, and society simply does not allow girls to live and serve in the inner temple.
I would think she might feel a sense of failure in that moment.
Oh.
Like, did I do something wrong? How do I fulfill my promise now?
She actually expresses this. The Quran captures her saying, "My Lord, I have delivered a female."
Just raw vulnerability.
Complete vulnerability. But the Quran immediately follows that by reminding us that Allah knew best what she had delivered. Allah accepted the girl graciously.
That reframes everything for me. It completely shifts the perspective because, we often pray for something so specific.
All the time.
We ask for a certain job or a son or a certain path to open up. And when life gives us something entirely different, we think our prayer was rejected.
Oh, absolutely. We feel like we failed.
But Hannah's story shows that sometimes you ask for a boy to sweep the floors of the temple, and Allah gives you a girl who will literally change the course of human history.
That is such a crucial insight. Our human plans are just so limited by our current understanding of the world.
Yeah.
Hannah's vision was limited to the traditions of Jerusalem, but Allah's vision encompassed all of humanity for the rest of time.
He wanted Maryam.
He wanted Maryam. He was preparing a woman who would be chosen above all women.
And despite the confusion of having a girl, Hannah remains this fiercely protective mother. She immediately makes another prayer for baby Maryam.
She does.
She asks Allah to protect Maryam and all of her future offspring from Satan.
Right. She says, "I commend her and her offspring to your protection from Satan the outcast."
And this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Yeah, because we learn from the authentic teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that this prayer was answered in a deeply literal way.
Because the hadith mentions that every child is pricked by Satan at birth, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why a newborn baby cries.
Yes. Exactly. It's a spiritual reality described in the Hadith. It represents the beginning of the lifelong struggle between human beings and the whispers of the devil.
But Hannah's prayer changed that.
It did. Because of her intense, sincere prayer, there were exactly 2 exceptions in all of human history. Satan was not permitted to touch Maryam when she was born, nor was he permitted to touch her future son, Prophet Isa.
Think about the magnitude of that for a second.
It's massive.
A mother sitting with her newborn, feeling perhaps a little uncertain about how this is all going to work out, makes a quiet, sincere prayer. And that single prayer throws a permanent shield around her daughter for her entire life.
And protects a grandson who hasn't even been conceived yet.
Exactly. It makes you realize that the words a parent speaks over their child are not just empty wishes. They have real divine weight.
They absolutely do. It shows the incredible power of just a pure intention.
Yeah.
So Hannah has this protected, blessed baby girl, but she refuses to break her promise to Allah.
She's sticking to the vow.
Exactly. As Maryam grows a little older, Hannah brings her to the temple to fulfill the vow.
Which must have caused absolute chaos among the religious scholars there.
Oh, for sure.
A woman bringing a young girl and saying, she's moving in. She is going to serve the sanctuary.
It completely shattered all their traditions. The priests and scholars were completely surprised.
I bet they were.
But they couldn't just turn her away. This was the daughter of Imran. Her family was essentially religious royalty.
Right, they had too much respect for the family.
And beyond that, they could see there was something spiritually profound about this child. It was clear it was the will of Allah that she be accepted.
So they accept her. But then this huge political argument breaks out, doesn't it?
It does, because she's a child living in the temple, so she needs a guardian. And suddenly, all these devout, respected men are arguing over who gets the honor of raising the daughter of Imran.
They all want the prestige.
Exactly, the prestige and the spiritual reward of raising her. The argument grew so intense that they actually had to find a neutral way to decide.
They couldn't just vote on it.
No, they agreed to cast lots.
And the way they do this is fascinating. They go out to a flowing river.
Right.
And they take their pens. These are like the wooden reeds they use to write the sacred scriptures.
Yeah, they're tools of scholarship.
Right. They decide they will throw their pens into the water, and whoever's pen floats against the rushing current will be the chosen guardian.
Let's just look closely at that visual for a second. Throwing a wooden pen into a fast-moving river.
It should just wash away.
Natural law dictates that the pen will be swept downstream instantly, but one pen defied the current.
I love the symbolism here so much, because these men are throwing the very tools of their religious authority into the water, and only one of them is validated.
Oh, that's a great point.
And it also feels like a brilliant metaphor for Maryam's entire life. Like she's going to be the one who swims against the current of her entire society.
That is a really beautiful way to interpret it. The one pen that fights the current and floats belongs to Prophet Zachariah, peace be upon him.
Who was already a relative, right?
Yes, he was a prophet, and he was also a relative of Maryam through marriage. So the river basically proved what was already divinely decreed. Zachariah was meant to raise her.
So Maryam is safe. She's placed under the care of a prophet, receiving an upbringing full of wisdom, love, and immense spiritual guidance.
The best possible guardian.
Truly. But as she grows into a young woman, she doesn't just blend in with the rest of the community at the temple. She lives a life of intense isolation.
She does. She moves into a specific, secluded prayer space within the temple. It's called a mihrab, a prayer niche.
Okay.
And she dedicates her days and her nights entirely to the worship of Allah. She physically separates herself from the noise, the drama, and the distractions of the outside world.
When I try to picture that as someone living in the modern world, it honestly sounds incredibly lonely.
I think most people would feel that way.
Right. Like we are terrified of being alone with our own thoughts for 5 minutes, let alone years in a single room. How does a young person survive that kind of isolation without losing their mind?
Well, there is a massive difference between isolation and solitude.
Tell me more about that.
Isolation is when you feel cut off from the world and you feel empty. Solitude is when you choose to step away from the world because you are already full.
Wow.
Think of it like being in the eye of a hurricane. Outside the mihrab, the society of Jerusalem was chaotic. It was full of political tension, societal expectations, just noise. But inside that room, there was a profound, pressurized...
The eye of a hurricane. I like that. The focus inside that room was entirely vertical. She wasn't looking horizontally at what society thought of her. She was looking straight up toward the Creator.
Exactly. When your heart is entirely tethered to Allah, the silence of a room does not feel like emptiness.
It feels full.
It feels heavily populated by the divine presence. She found her absolute best companion in the remembrance of... She didn't need the validation of the crowds outside.
And it becomes very clear that Allah was indeed providing her with company and care in that room, because Prophet Zachariah, as her guardian, would regularly unlock the door and enter her mihrab to check on her.
Right.
And he starts noticing something impossible.
It's one of the most beautiful miracles. He would come in to bring her food or just check on her welfare, but he would find that she already had food.
And not just like bread and water.
No, you would find fresh, beautiful fruits.
And the detail that changes everything here is that these fruits were completely out of season.
Right. We have to remember, this is the ancient world.
Right, there are no grocery stores.
Exactly. There are no greenhouses. There's no global shipping bringing tropical fruit to the desert. If it was the dead of winter, freezing cold outside, Zachariah would walk into her room and find fresh summer fruits like grapes or figs.
That's crazy.
And if it was the blazing heat of summer, he would find winter crops. It was a physical impossibility.
And Zachariah is a prophet. He knows how the world works. He's standing there looking at this young woman, looking at this impossible food, and he is just astonished.
Completely mind blown.
He asks her directly, "Oh, Maryam, where did you get this from?"
And notice how she responds. She doesn't act mysterious. She doesn't boast about how special she is.
She doesn't flex.
Right, she doesn't flex. She is completely grounded. She gives a simple, absolute truth. It is from Allah. Surely Allah provides for whoever He wills without limit.
That phrase, Allah provides for whoever He wills without limit, is literally the definition of tawakkul, true, unfiltered trust.
It is. She understood the concept of risk, which means divine provision.
And risk is more than just wealth, right?
Oh, much more. Risk isn't just money in a bank account. It's the food you eat, the air you breathe, the peace in your heart. Maryam knew that Allah is Ar-Razak, the ultimate provider. Because she had entirely submitted her life to Him, she didn't spend a single second worrying about how she would survive.
What fascinates me is the effect this has on Zachariah. Here is this elderly prophet, a man who has preached faith his whole life, and he's looking at a young girl whose pure, simple faith actually reinvigorates his own.
That is the beauty of spiritual mentorship. It goes both ways.
It really does.
Zachariah had been praying for a child for decades, but he and his wife were very old. He thought the laws of biology had closed that door forever.
He'd kind of given up hope, naturally.
But standing in the mihrab, looking at summer fruits in the middle of winter, he realizes something profound. If Allah can bend the laws of nature to provide impossible fruit to this girl, Allah can bend the laws of biology to give an old man a son.
Wow. Her faith literally inspired a prophet to renew his prayers.
Exactly. It shows she had reached a spiritual rank that is almost incomprehensible, which explains why the Quran records the angels coming to her and delivering a message that confirms her status.
What do they say?
The angels say to her, "O Mary, God has chosen you and purified you and chosen you above the women of the world."
Above the women of the world. That is an absolute statement. There is no caveat there.
None. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, actually expanded on this when he taught about the 4 greatest women in the history of humanity.
Oh, this is important.
These are the ultimate role models for virtue.
Who are the other 3, just for context?
So you have Asiya, the believing wife of the tyrannical pharaoh.
Right, who maintained her faith in the most hostile household on earth.
Exactly. Then Khadija, the first wife of Prophet Muhammad, who provided immense emotional and financial support at the birth of Islam. And Fatima, the beloved daughter of Prophet Muhammad, who represents tremendous resilience and purity.
May Allah be pleased with all of them.
Yes. But Maryam stands as the symbol of pure, solitary devotion. Think about it. She didn't have a believing husband to lean on. She didn't have a prophetic father in her house to guide her day.
She was on her own.
Her strength was entirely forged in that quiet isolation with her Lord.
And that strength was about to be tested in the most terrifying way imaginable.
Oh, yes.
She's living in this peaceful, protected mihrab. The doors are locked. She's deep in her daily worship. And then the silence is shattered.
It's one of the most dramatic moments in the historical text. She is completely alone. There's no sound of a door opening.
Right.
There are no footsteps echoing in the stone hallway. But suddenly, she realizes she is not alone. There is a man standing in her private room.
And the text describes him as a perfectly formed, handsome man. Now, we know, as readers of the history, that this is the angel Jibril or Gabriel, peace be upon him.
But she doesn't know that.
Right. She has no idea.
You really have to place yourself in her mind here. She is a deeply modest, chaste young woman. She has lived her whole life avoiding the gaze of men. She is in a locked sanctuary.
It's her safe space.
And a strange man has just bypassed all security and is standing right in front of her. The sheer terror of that moment would cause anyone to scream or panic or freeze.
Her physical body must have been gripped by absolute fear. But her reaction is what makes her Maryam.
It is.
She doesn't scream for the temple guards. She doesn't ask, "How did you pick the lock?" Her very first instinct, before her brain can even process the logistics, is to turn to her protector.
She immediately says, "I truly seek refuge in the most compassionate from. If you are God-fearing, leave me alone."
I want to pause on the specific name she uses for God in that terrifying moment. She says, "The most compassionate Ar-Rahman."
Yes.
She is facing what looks like an intruder, Why wouldn't she call upon God the Avenger or God the Compeller to strike this man down?
It just shows the deep state of her heart. Even in absolute peril, her mind defaults to Allah's mercy and compassion.
Why?
She is appealing to the mercy of God to wrap around her and protect her. And at the same time, she's trying to appeal to the stranger's own conscience. She's saying, if you have any feel of God in your heart, you will not harm me.
It's a profound lesson in how we react when we feel cornered. When the world terrifies us, do we lash out? Or do we instantly seek refuge in the compassion of the Creator?
Exactly.
So the angel sees her terror. He knows he needs to de-escalate the situation instantly.
Right. He responds immediately to calm her down. He reveals his true nature. He says, I am only a messenger from your Lord.
The relief must have washed over her.
Like a tidal wave. He's not an intruder. He's a divine envoy.
But the relief lasts for about 2 seconds because of the rest of his sentence. He says he has been sent to give her the glad tidings of a pure son.
Yeah, from the terror of an intruder, she moves straight into the shock of an impossible reality.
Right, she's a virgin, she's unmarried.
She's lived a life of complete chastity. The biological mechanics of what he is saying just do not make sense to her.
She asks the most rational question possible. How can I have a son when no man has ever touched me, nor have I been unchaste? She's basically demanding an explanation of how the laws of nature are going to be suspended.
And Jibril's answer is the cornerstone of Islamic theology regarding miracle. He doesn't give her a scientific explanation. He simply says, so shall it be. Your Lord says, it is easy for me.
It is easy for me.
That phrase changes the entire paradigm. The laws of biology, reproduction, cause and effect, these are rules that Allah created to organize the universe.
But he's not bound by them.
Exactly. The Creator is not bound by the rules he created. When Allah decrees a matter, he simply says, be in Arabic, kun, and it is.
Just like that.
Just as he created the first human, Adam, with no father and no mother, creating a child in the womb of Maryam with no father is effortless for him.
It is effortless for Allah, yes.
Yeah.
But it is about to require immense, agonizing effort from Maryam.
Oh, absolutely.
She submits to the will of her Lord. She conceives Prophet Isa, peace be upon him. But this is where the story pivots from a quiet, internal spiritual miracle into a brutal, physical, societal nightmare.
Because the reality of pregnancy cannot be hidden for long. Her body begins to change. And she lives in a society where religious purity is scrutinized daily, a society that punishes women severely for perceived immorality.
The whispers would begin.
The judgmental stares.
The psychological weight of knowing you are carrying a divine miracle, but everyone you know looks at you like you are a scandalous sinner. It must have been suffocating.
To protect herself from the cruelty of her own people and to protect the unborn prophet she is carrying, she has to leave.
She flees.
She abandons the mihrab, the only safe space she has ever known. She leaves Jerusalem and withdraws to a remote easterly place. She goes into the wilderness.
This is the part of the story that always hits me the hardest. She's entirely alone in the harsh landscape. There are no midwives.
No family.
There's no clean bed. And then the contractions start. The pain of childbirth begins.
We really need to dwell on the physical reality of this. Labor is an exhausting, agonizing process that tests the absolute limits of the human body.
Even in a modern hospital, it's terrifying.
Exactly. To endure those intense waves of pain without a single person to hold your hand, to wipe your forehead, to tell you everything is going to be okay. It is true desolate. The pain becomes so severe that she staggers toward a dry date palm tree, leaning against its rough trunk just to keep from collapsing.
She is at the absolute end of her physical and emotional rope. And in that moment of blinding pain, she cries out. The Quran records her words in Surah Maryam. She says, alas, I wish I had died before this and was a thing long forgotten.
I wish I had died before this and was a thing long forgotten.
I am so grateful those words are in the text.
Me too.
Because if she had just smiled through the pain and said, praise be to God, this is easy, she would feel like a superhero that we could never, ever relate to.
Right. She'd be untouchable.
But she breaks. The greatest woman in history, chosen above all others, hits a point where she wishes she could just cease to exist.
It validates the human experience of despair. Wishing for the pain to end, feeling entirely overwhelmed by a trial, does not mean your faith is broken.
It just means you're human.
It means your body and your mind are human. It is not a sin to feel like you cannot take another step.
And look at how Allah responds to her breakdown. He doesn't send a lightning bolt. He doesn't send an angel to lecture her about gratitude or remind her of her high status.
Not at all.
How does the divine comfort arrive?
A voice calls out to console her from directly beneath her. The voice simply says, do not grieve.
Do not grieve. No scolding, just pure validation and comfort.
And it isn't just words. Allah provides immediate practical relief. The voice tells her that a cool, sweet stream of water has been made to flow right at her.
Oh, wow.
She is dehydrated, exhausted in the desert heat, and suddenly there is fresh water to drink and cool her skin.
But she also needs energy. I mean, she's just been through severe physical trauma.
So the voice gives her a specific command. It tells her to shake the trunk of the palm tree she's leaning against.
Okay, wait. Think about this critically.
Right.
A woman who has just gone through agonizing labor does not have the muscular strength to shake a massive, deeply rooted palm tree.
It's physically impossible.
So why command her to do it? Why not just make the dates fall directly into her lap?
Because of the principle of making an effort, no matter how small. It teaches us that while Allah provides the miracle, the human being must take the action.
You have to do your part.
You have to tie your camel. She reaches up, weak and trembling, and she shakes the tree with whatever tiny bit of strength she has left. And the moment she makes the effort, fresh, perfectly ripe dates cascade down around her.
That's incredible.
And medically speaking, dates are scientifically proven to be one of the best foods for a woman recovering from childbirth, packed with sugars, potassium, and energy.
So she has cool water, fresh dates, and the comforting presence of a newborn miracle, Prophet Isa, in her arms. She survives the hardest night of her life.
She does.
But the trial isn't over, because now she has to go back.
Going back means facing the very society she fled from. And Allah gives her one very specific instruction before she walks back into Jerusalem. He commands her to take a vow of silence.
He tells her, if you see any person, just communicate that you have made a vow of silence to the most compassionate, and you will not speak to anyone today. If they demand answers, she is instructed to simply point to the baby.
Imagine the psychological difficulty of this command.
Oh, I'd be terrified.
You know you are innocent. You know you have experienced a profound miracle. Your instinct is to shout it from the rooftops to defend your honor. But she is told to suppress that instinct entirely and trust the plan.
So she starts walking back into the city limits, carrying a fatherless newborn. It wouldn't take long for someone to notice.
No, the whispering would start at the edge of the market, and then the crowds would gather.
You could just picture the mob mentality taking over. The shock turns into self-righteous anger. They surround her. They start throwing vicious accusations at her. They say, "Oh, Mary, you have certainly done a horrible thing."
They even bring her family into it. They say, your father was not an indecent man, nor was your mother unchaste. They call her sister of Aaron.
They're trying to shame her lineage.
Exactly. They're basically saying, you come from a line of pure priestly nobility. How could you drag our entire legacy through the mud?
The pressure on her to break her silence must have been immense. People she respected, elders of the community, are literally screaming at her.
But she holds her ground.
She absorbs the hatred of the crowd in complete silence. And then, fulfilling the command, she simply raises her hand and points down at the infant wrapped in cloth.
I can only imagine the absolute fury of the crowd at that gesture.
They must have felt mocked.
They're demanding answers for a capital offense, and she points to a baby who is just days old. They literally say, how can we talk to an infant in a cradle?
They think it is an arrogant joke. But as the crowd is raging, the impossible happens.
The newborn baby opens his mouth.
The noise of the mob dies down and the infant speaks. And he doesn't just make baby noises. He speaks with perfect eloquence, clarity, and authority.
It gives me chills just thinking about the silence that must have fallen over that square.
What are the exact words that baby Isa says to the crowd?
His words are preserved forever in Surah Maryam. The baby says, I am truly a servant of Allah. He has destined me to be given the scripture and to be a prophet. He has made me a blessing wherever I go and bid me to establish prayer and give alms tax as long as I live and to be kind to my mother. He has not made me arrogant or defiant.
Wow. It's a masterclass in vindication.
It really is.
He doesn't just say, leave my mom alone. He completely reorients the reality of everyone standing there. He announces his prophethood. He commands them regarding prayer and charity. And crucially, he announces that Allah commanded him to be kind to his mother, cementing her absolute purity.
The crowd would have been paralyzed by awe. You cannot argue with an infant speaking the words of God.
You just can't.
The truth was revealed in a way that was undeniably divine. By forcing Maryam to be silent, Allah ensured that her defense came from a source no human could question.
Because of that unbelievable moment of vindication, it is no wonder her legacy was preserved so fiercely. In fact, if you look at how she is remembered in the Quran, she occupies a space that literally no one else does.
Her status in the Quran is unparalleled. Consider this. Maryam is the only woman mentioned by her actual first name in the entire Quran.
The only one.
And she isn't just mentioned in passing, she's mentioned by name 70 times.
70 times. That is more frequently than many of the major prophets.
Exactly. There's an entire chapter named Surah Maryam, and chapter 3 is named Surah Al-Imran after her family. The Quran elevates her as the ultimate standard of faith for all believers, not just for women, but for men as well.
However, when people read these chapters, especially in English translation, they sometimes encounter phrases that cause confusion regarding historical timelines.
Right, that happens quite a bit.
I want us to address this clearly, using only the facts from our discussion today.
Yeah.
When the angry mob confronted her, they called her sister of Aaron. Some readers might see that and think she is literally the sibling of the biblical prophets Moses and Aaron.
Yes, that is a very common area of confusion. To clarify this, we have to understand how language worked in the ancient Semitic and Arabic world.
Okay, lay it out for us.
In their cultural dialect, addressing someone as a sister or brother or daughter of a famous historical figure was a standard way of indicating lineage, tribe, or spiritual kinship.
So it wasn't a literal family tree update, it was a title.
Right. Maryam lived approximately 1800 years after the era of Aaron and Amram. The people screaming at her in the street knew perfectly well who her immediate family was.
Right.
When they yelled, "Sister of Aaron," they were using a cultural idiom. They were saying, "You are a descendant of the noble, pious priesthood of Aaron. You carry that legacy. How could you behave this way?"
It was meant to highlight the massive contrast between her glorious ancestry and her perceived sin.
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense. It's like referring to a patriotic citizen as a son of the revolution. It denotes legacy, not literal parentage.
Perfect analogy.
Let's tackle another profound theological point, the virgin birth itself. How does Islam frame this event? Because it is obviously central to other faith traditions as well.
Islam affirms the virgin birth with absolute, unwavering certainty. Maryam was a chaste virgin, and she miraculously conceived. However, the Islamic understanding of the meaning of this miracle is highly specific.
The Quran refers to Isa as a word from Allah and a spirit from him. This can sometimes be misinterpreted by those unfamiliar with the theology, right?
It can, but the explanation is rooted in the concept of divine command. The word refers to Allah's command of creation, be, kun.
Like we talked about earlier.
Right, and the spirit refers to the breath of life brought by the angel Jibreel. In Islam, the miraculous birth of Isa without a human father is a profound demonstration of Allah's infinite creative power.
It's an echo of the creation of Adam, who had neither father nor mother.
Exactly. But, and this is the critical distinction, this miraculous origin does not elevate Prophet Isa to divinity.
So he is a masterpiece of creation,
Yeah.
but still a creation.
You nailed it. Islam honors Prophet Isa as a mighty, mortal human messenger, one of the greatest prophets alongside Abraham, Moses, and Muhammad, peace be upon them all. The virgin birth points to the majesty of the Creator, not the divinity of the one who was created.
That brings up a fascinating linguistic pattern in the Quran. I've noticed that whenever Prophet Isa is mentioned, he is almost always referred to by a specific title. Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus, the son of Mary.
Yes.
In a deeply patriarchal ancient society, people were exclusively identified by their father's lineage.
Yeah.
Why does the text constantly anchor him to his mother?
It serves two brilliant purposes. First, it is a constant historical reinforcement of the virgin birth. By identifying him solely through his mother, the text perpetually reminds humanity that he had no human father.
That's a great point.
But secondly, and I find this so moving, it is the ultimate eternal honor for Maryam.
Because she lost everything in the eyes of society for a time. She suffered the worst kinds of rumors and isolation.
And in return, Allah attached her name to one of the greatest prophets for the rest of human history. Every time billions of Muslims speak of Prophet Isa, they must speak the name of Maryam.
It is a permanent elevation of her struggle and her purity.
What an incredible reward for her patience.
That actually segues perfectly into how we, living in the modern world, can pull practical lessons from her life. The first thing that stands out to me looking at her story is how she completely redefines the concept of a single parent.
Oh, it's such a vital lesson. In many communities today, single mothers and fathers face a quiet, persistent stigma.
Yeah, they deal with gossip, unfair judgment, and just a massive emotional burden. Society often views a single-parent household as inherently broken or lesser than.
But look at the reality of Maryam's life. She was a single mother. There is no mention in the texts of a husband stepping in to help, or of her having a large extended family sharing the daily burden of raising him.
She was entirely on her own.
She was a single mother who raised one of the most significant prophets to ever walk the earth. That fact alone should instantly erase any stigma surrounding single parenthood.
If you are a single parent listening, you should see Maryam as a beacon of honor.
Absolutely. Allah specifically chose a single mother for this monumental task. It proves that a home with one devoted, faithful parent is capable of nurturing absolute greatness.
That is deeply empowering. Another major thread in her life is how she processed trials. Her life was just an unbroken chain of
being dedicated to the temple, the
terrifying angel, the agonizing desert birth, the hateful mob. It is overwhelming just to recount it.
But those tests were not punishments. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught a profound principle. When Allah loves a people, he tests them.
Right.
Trials are often the very mechanism used to elevate a person's spiritual rank.
It is the concept of tawakkul. Trusting the script, even when the scene you are in makes no sense.
When Maryam was weeping against the trunk of that palm tree, wishing she were dead and forgotten, her vision was limited to her immediate pain.
She couldn't see the big picture.
She could not see the billions of people who would draw strength from her story centuries later. She could not see the legacy she was cementing.
Wow.
When you are inside the darkness of a severe trial, you cannot see the dawn Allah is preparing for you. You simply have to endure with patience, knowing that the designer of the trial is Ar-Rahman, the most compassionate.
And part of that endurance is knowing how to respond to the cruelty of others. Her vow of silence when confronted by the mob is a lesson we desperately need today.
Oh, we really do.
We live in an era where we feel the need to argue in every comment section, to defend our reputation against every rumor, to scream our truth at people who aren't even listening.
Maryam's silence teaches us a higher level of spiritual maturity. When you are falsely accused or when people misunderstand your intentions and their hearts are closed to the truth, your words will often just feed their anger.
You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to.
Precisely. If your heart is pure before Allah, you do not need to fight every battle with your own tongue. Maryam trusted that if she remained dignified and silent, Allah would defend her honor. In a way she could never have orchestrated herself. Sometimes holding your peace and letting the truth reveal itself is the most powerful defense imaginable.
From a silent praying girl in a locked room, to a woman enduring the wilderness, to a mother vindicated by a miracle, her life is a blueprint for resilience.
It truly is. When you feel lonely in your faith, remember Maryam finding absolute peace with her Creator in the mihrab.
No.
When you feel overwhelmed by a physical or emotional burden, remember her exhausted by the palm tree and trust that Allah will provide a stream of relief if you just make the effort.
And when you are judged unfairly, remember the power of her dignified silence. I want to leave you with one final thought before we go, something to sit with today. We focus so heavily on the dramatic miracles of Maryam's life, the winter fruits, the angel, the speaking infant.
Right, the big cinematic moments.
Exactly. But think about the decades that followed. The Quran does not detail her later years. She lived the rest of her life in relative quiet, facing the daily, ordinary grind of raising a child in a complex world.
That's a great point.
True greatness isn't just found in the moments when angels appear or babies speak from cradles. True greatness is often found in the quiet, unrecorded, daily persistence of living faithfully, long after the crowds have dispersed and the dramatic miracles have passed. Ask yourself, what does your quiet daily persistence look like? Thank you for spending this time with us.
May Allah increase us in knowledge, faith, and wisdom. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and assalamu alaikum.